Speaking of blowing it, Texas A&M.
I mean, these were two teams who were taking turns blowing it.
Yeah, fair.
Because Auburn did have a 21-0 lead in this game. And then it was 31-28 Texas A&M in the fourth quarter. I mean, are you that surprised? I mean, I know I said on the show, because you were talking about this, so it's probably silly to ask you. Like, I said that Auburn had no shot, but I was sitting there thinking because they would be so focused on Alabama, like Hugh Freeze was going to be so dead set on beating the Tide to kind of end the season with that I figured they were going to kind of punt on this game, but they clearly did not. So, I mean, I don't know.
My thought is because it was at home, and let's see, I think that they had a couple. Where were some of these bad losses? Obviously, like they had been severely lacking. So you had the home loss to Vanderbilt, you had the home loss to Oklahoma, and you had the home loss to Arkansas and the home loss to Cal. To me, my calculation was that Hugh Freeze understands that having, was it 60? Where are we at right now? Having 87,451 people mad at you together is way worse than having those 90,000 people mad at you at their homes individually, watch parties and bar. The worst thing you can do as a head coach is lose a bunch of home games. That's been one of my fun takeaways. I mean, it's not anything revolutionary, but just a nice reminder that it can go a long way not to have everybody in Section 38 pissed off together, feeding each other's anger. So after all those home losses, I did have this one as the pour it out game. And that's what we saw early when Auburn jumps out to the big lead. But then, as you mentioned, Auburn blows the big lead. Texas A&M comes storming back. Looks like they're going to be in control, but then Auburn has one last gasp. Peyton Thorne coming out of nowhere with some huge throws and like making it happen with his feet in the final moments. And to be fair, I did not get to watch the second, third, and fourth overtime. So in terms of the ultimate plays that decided this game, my eyes have been on you and on our conversation. So going to have to tackle that in upon further review. But man, tough scene for the Aggies.
It is, but it's also not entirely unexpected because, like, let's look at it from a grand perspective, from the outside. There's been a whole lot of talk about like the 2-loss SEC teams coming into the week that were vying for a playoff spot, and some people thought they should be ranked higher. Some people were angry that they were ranked higher than some other teams. Like Alabama was 7, Ole Miss was 9, Georgia was 10, Tennessee was 11. Then there was Boise State, SMU, and BYU. And who was behind all those teams?
Texas A&M.
Yeah. Even though they were also an SEC team with 2 losses, because if you looked closer at their resume, they lost to Notre Dame to open the season. They got absolutely smoked down the road by South Carolina. And the wins over Missouri and LSU kind of have lost luster as the season has worn on. So it's not a complete shock that they lost this game. It probably is a killer, because I feel like there will still be a 3-loss SEC team that gets in just because of all the teams that lost today. I feel like there's going to be a spot for them. But like you said about Ole Miss, I'm pretty confident it won't be the Aggies unless they beat Texas next week. But I don't even know if that's going to be enough to save them at this point.
So I did want to get into that because, this did happen within the context of the game before we got into the later stages. Marcel Reed was bad early in this game. You know?
We talked about it when he came back in for Wegman. Like, this has been the kind of musical chairs thing that A&M's done all season. Once one of them started playing poorly, they put the other one in, and he played well, but that kind of wears itself out because neither of them are incredible.
I mean, this final stat line looks better than the way it felt. Am I way off on that?
He started poorly. He played well at the end.
He played well at the end, but at the beginning, it was not good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He finishes 20. By the way, if you're watching on youtube.com/cover3, thanks to producer Mikey, who's got it on the screen right now. He was 22 for 35, 297 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That stat line looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had 86 yards on the ground, 66. Yeah. I don't.
This was just a crazy, silly game that we sometimes get. And the only teams that typically get caught in these crazy, silly games are good teams that aren't necessarily great.
And Texas A&M is a good team that's not necessarily
Great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.